What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Pazza podcast. We're coming to you this week following a big 2-0 victory for Inter away at Cagliari. They're in Sardinia. Tough place to play, but Inter comes away with all 3 points and, importantly, a clean sheet on the road. We're going to dive right into this match. It was a match that I wasn't really able to watch live. I was out of town taking care of the move that I had mentioned last week, but was able to watch it on my phone out in public, and then had to rewatch this morning and just going to give some quick thoughts. It's going to be a shorter video than usual. Please like, subscribe, comment, all the usual stuff we talk about. Anything helps. And yeah, if you have any differing opinions or anything like that, comment down below and let's get a dialogue started. So diving into this match, like I said, away in Sardinia, Cagliari is a team that so far starting this season has been pretty decent. They're a team that's coming off the back, or was coming off the back, of 3 straight victories. Lost 1-0 to Napoli, a hard fought loss, 1-0. Maybe they were unlucky. And tied Fiorentina. I think even going into this match, they might have been just below or above us on points. So it was a match that wasn't going to be easy, and Inter had to really concentrate and lock in to collect all 3 points here. We started with a lineup. Christian Kivu started with Pep Martinez in goal over Jan Sommer. We started with that back three that we had talked about maybe is our new best back three, especially after the win against Ajax, with Akanji, De Vrij, Bastoni. Luis Enrique got his full Serie A debut starting on the right wing back in place of Dumfries. That midfield three that we're all so accustomed to seeing of Barella, Hakan, and Mkhitaryan. Carlos Augusto, the guy we cried for after last match performance to get more minutes, makes his way into the starting left wing back position. And then Thuram was paired again, finally back from injury, rest, Lautaro Martinez. So it was a pretty full strength lineup, depending on how you look. You know, Dumfries obviously getting in for Luis Enrique would be first choice. And then, you know, you can argue about Carlos Augusto and DiMarco, Acerbi, and De Vrij, Martinez or Sommer, who's really the first choice. So pretty strong lineup going in there to Cagliari. And we started very lively, looked really good and up for the match. It was a very spry opening couple minutes, and Inter was piecing together some passes, and the tempo of the match was really good from both teams very early on. The good thing is we didn't have to wait long for the goal, and it comes courtesy of Il Capitano, the man, the Interisti, the guy that we know and love, Lautaro Martinez. Nothing spectacular about the goal. It was a great cross from Bastoni, making his way up the left side of the pitch. And it was a great header from Lautaro. It was one, he definitely used his experience. If you watch certain angles of it, before the ball even gets crossed in, Lautaro is battling with that defender from Cagliari, and he does a good job to throw him off to where right when the crosses come in, he kind of was discombobulated, wasn't sure where he's at, and it was a pretty easy standard header for Lautaro. And that's something, going up 1-0 early, that is something that Inter wants to do and likes. I think, in my opinion, we're a better team where we're not chasing games, obviously. And, I mean, you know, there's a lot of teams you could say that. But I think we're a better team where we don't have to press as high and we don't have to get called out or drawn out, I guess is the word, and can kind of sit a little deeper and let the teams attack us. We're a great counter-attacking team, and a lot of times against lower level teams, we don't get to do that. And getting a goal early allows us to do that. Let them draw themselves out, and then we just punish them on the counter. So that's something I really, really liked, getting that early goal. And of course, loved it for Lautaro Martinez coming back from a couple games where he wasn't at his best, maybe fatigued or injured. And getting him on the score sheet early was awesome. Grande Lauti. like I said, I haven't been able to really pay full attention when the game was going on, and just watching it this morning, um, didn't get too much of a feel for the match. So, just going to jump into my first half thoughts. I thought it was a good early goal, like I said, from Lauti. After the goal, the game got a little more even, but I still think Cagliari, they never really threatened us at that point, and we looked like we were in control. Unfortunately for them, Belotti got injured towards the end of the first half and had to come off. Luckily, nothing serious for Pep Martinez at that point. And for the most part, we were never really threatened, or they never really threatened our goal. I think our back line looked completely in control of the match, which goes with them never really threatening. This maybe is the back line moving forward when we're playing tough teams. De Vrij looked good. There maybe was a time or two where I was like, what is his positioning? But that's something maybe with gameplay and consecutive run of games, he'll shore up. I've always said over the past few months that De Vrij is a great defender, but there's like momentary lapses of concentration where his positioning is kind of wonky. And if he can get that settled and whatnot, I think he should be our first choice center back over Acerbi. Akanji looks like he's settling in. He plays some really great passes moving forward, and he's solid. Like I say, he's solid, if not unspectacular. He just does the what he needs to do, and that's really all we need from him. And then Bastoni, we know what he brings to the table. He did have maybe a mishap or two this match, but again, he's going to be our best player. He's one of the best center backs, and what he provides for us going forward, you can't replicate with anybody else in the world. So really great from the back line, and I just thought we needed a second goal early because away at Cagliari in Sardinia, it's a tough place to play. If you watched before the match, them getting off the airplane, the wind there was freaking absurd and insane. And if they got a goal early and we didn't, the match could have completely spiraled out of control, especially with how these guys seemingly are fragile and don't have a response. So we needed an early second goal, at least in my opinion. Second half, we started the second half with a substitution. Carlos Augusto came off for Di Marco. Think it was Carlos Augusto got his yellow card for time wasting, delaying the restart, and then he put a foul a minute or so later, and maybe was on that borderline of potentially a send off. So I don't think it was like an Inzaghi precautionary. I think it was more of like a hey, like you're towing the line. We need to get you off. And he didn't follow up that great performance from Sassuolo with a good performance here. So we need to see some consistency out of Carlos Augusto. And he didn't show it here. He almost took a step back. But immediately, though, after the second half whistle, we see why Carlos Augusto is so important for us because Di Marco, defensively, he made an errant. He was out of position, missed a tackle. It just wasn't a good play from Di Marco defensively, and that led to Cagliari on the front foot having a half chance. It wasn't really a full chance, but that's the limitations with Di Marco, and that's why Carlos Augusto, we need him to be consistent and get some more minutes because we got to find a way to shore up this back line and string of run of good, solid defensive performances. And I think that comes from Augusto being back there in that back five, wing back position, left wing back, whatever you want to call it. Made another sub a few minutes later. Fratesi and Pio come on for Barella and Thuram. I thought Thuram, he got in some good positions and made some good moves and everything, but he was very wasteful in front of goal. Missed a tap in. It looked like it just went under his foot. Had a couple good chances. There was one where he beat a couple players on and was through on goal and just wasted the shot. Thuram, we know, I mean, he could be leading Serie A right now by 2 or 3 goals, well into the lead of the race if he was more clinical. And he's got to finish these chances. He's such a class player and such a really good player and fits this system and whatnot. But if you're not finishing these chances, like at a point, it's going to become like we either move on, or you become this world-class striker that you have the ability to do. So something interesting to keep an eye on throughout the season. Can Thuram make that step into becoming the striker that he should and has the ability to? He's just got to learn how to take these finishes. Again, I think he should have had a goal today. And then a couple minutes later, Dumfries came in for Luis Enrique. I think that, let's see, I think Luis Enrique had a good performance. It wasn't great. I think, there was a couple misplaced passes, but I think he was solid. They never really threatened down his side. He made some good movements going forward, and it was a performance that I think he shouldn't be disappointed at, and something that he needs to take and improve upon each game. If he can have a performance like that and improve each game, after a few games, he's going to be a decent backup for Dumfries. So I think it was a decent performance. It wasn't great, like I said, but for his first full Serie A debut, I give Enrique a pretty good nod, a nod of approval, I guess. Then, about 10 minutes later, somewhere in the 75th minute, off of a corner, Cagliari hits the bar. And it's at this point where every Interisti, including myself, is probably thinking, here we go again. This is the Forza Inter that we saw or have seen every match this season, it seems like. Granted, maybe that Ajax match. And this is the Forza Inter traditionally that we see all the time. It's going to be a crazy ending of the match, and Cagliari maybe will get back into this match. But luckily, we have the Inter Academy graduates to come and save the day for Inter in this match. It was a brilliant goal taken by Pio Esposito, getting his first Inter senior club goal in the league. And it came from the assist from our other Inter Academy graduate, Federico Di Marco. If you're an Interisti, an Inter fan, you had to have had a tear in your eye and overcome with emotion seeing an Inter Academy to Inter Academy player. Something I don't know when the last time, maybe Santon to Balotelli. If I don't know if they ever connected on something like that. I don't think Biraghi. Did we have any Inter Academy graduates at that point after Biraghi when he came back? Yeah, other than that, I can't remember. If you guys remember any, comment down below. But what a feeling to see these two guys connect for a goal and ultimately a winner to put the game to bed versus Cagliari. And Pio getting off the mark is only something that is going to light a fire even hotter underneath him, create competition between him, Lauti, and Thuram. And it's just great for not only Inter, but the Azzurri. It's a great thing overall. So, Grande Pio, Grande Dima, let's go. And we end the match with all 3 points. Nothing better than to see that, especially with the result Milan beating Napoli. We now comfortably getting back into the title race, and it's Juve dropping points to Atalanta. It's now formulating at this point to being a good title race. Hopefully it stays that way, and hopefully Inter can keep the pace. Full-time thoughts. Like I said, this is going to be a quick video, so we're already to full-time thoughts. Good result away from home against a team that's on form, like I had mentioned earlier. Clean sheet. They did hit the bar, and they had maybe one more chance after that looked like it could threaten. But other than that, Inter, I think, looked calm, composed, and I think it was a performance by that back line that we can be proud of. Lautaro, man of the match performance. Not only the goal, but his hold-up play today was absolutely insane. Some of the moves and getting around defenders, creating an inch or two of space to allow us to get forward and get out and relieve some pressure off of the defense. It was a top-class performance from Lautaro. This is what we want to see from Il Capitano. So glad he's back. I always say, he's just a brilliant player and an awesome captain to have. And you got to love the guy. He can frustrate you sometimes with his finishing, but other than that, his work rate, his hold up play, and everything else is truly world class. So grande Lauti. Kivu, his second goal reaction. If you haven't seen it, it's quite comical. He throws the water bottle and gives a big yell and scream and everything. It's something that, who knows, he might get fined. He's an Inter coach, so the FIGC doesn't really take kindly to Inter coaches showing emotion. If you remember, I think it was like 6, 7 years ago, Spalletti, I think Inter scored a late one and he sarcastically like stuck his tongue out or something like that to the camera and ended up getting fined. You know, Allegri and all these other coaches can go insane and whatever. But the second an Inter coach, whether it's Inzaghi, Spalletti, Conte, who knows with Kivu, shows any sort of emotion, it's a scandal and they're unprofessional. So we'll see what happens that, but it was great to see that reaction from Kivu. Matches coming up now. We got Slavia and Cremonese coming up soon. It'd be great to win both of those with clean sheets and put more pressure on the rest of the league. Milan and Juve play next in a big derby match. Roma have Fiorentina. Fiorentina hasn't started the season well, but they have quality players. Roma keep getting these 1-0 victories, so maybe their luck runs out. And Napoli have Genoa. So Napoli's form of the last few games have not been that great. Buongiorno is hurt. Rahmani is hurt. Their back line is not that great at this point. So, you know, maybe Genoa can come up and give us Carboni. Maybe they can provide some an upset or take some points away from Napoli. And the last thing I want to mention of note, shout outs to my boy Corey in our group message. He's been looking for a shout out after I shouted out Vince a couple weeks ago. He came up with this point, and it's something that I want you guys to maybe hear your opinion and see what you think. And I think it's a good point. Inter in our big matches, barring Milan, if you don't look at that one, we're sharing the same stadium. So you home or away, it's going to be an electric atmosphere. But the big matches, the first half of the season, we had Juve on the road there in Turin, Roma, Napoli, Bologna, and Atalanta, all the way from home first half of the season. So if we get, out of the remaining 4, if we get 9, 10 points out of that, coming to the back half of the season where these matches are going to be at home, hopefully the Cordova comes back and we get that home atmosphere at the San Siro. I know Milan, the Cordova Sud is slowly integrating back in. Hopefully our Cordova Nord is going to break their descent against the club and come back into the stadium and provide a good home atmosphere in the league. If we can get good results, like I said, 9, 10 points in those matches, and the ones coming back home in the second half season, I think, you know, that's a good thing. We need to be on the lookout for these matches away from home in the first half of the season and pick up all these points. That way, in the second half of the season, you know, even if you're not having a great match, if it's at home and the crowd's behind you, they can encourage you and bring you into the match. So shout outs to Corey for that little point. And hopefully, you know, it's something that Inter has noticed and tries to take advantage of this first half of the season. So, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Like I said, it's a short video this week. Be on the lookout midweek for Slavia and on the weekend against Cremonese. If you guys have any questions, reach out to me. You can email me. Again, please like, subscribe, comment. And as always, Forza Inter.